انك انت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى ال سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. The story of Mi'raj actually starts long before the Mi'raj took place. At the very beginning of Revelation, as we heard earlier today, there were two surahs that were revealed. In one of them, Allah Ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhal mudaththir, qum fa'anzir. Allah Ta'ala calls out to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who was wrapped up in thoughts, overwhelmed by the fact that his mission was about to begin. Allah Ta'ala tells him, qum fa'anzir, that rise and warn. In other words, you need to start giving dawah. So we see one of the missions of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was outlined in the beginning of Revelation, in the very early Makki period, highlighted by Surah Al-Mudaththir. But Allah Ta'ala told Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that he needed to give dawah. There was another surah that was revealed very early on as well. Allah Ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhal muzammil, قم الليل إلا قليلا نصفه أو انقص منه قليلا إلى آخره. That Allah Ta'ala tells Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that, O you who's wrapped up in cloths, O you who's wrapped up in blankets, stand, rise, and pray at night. قم الليل إلا قليلا, the entire night, maybe minus a little bit, maybe half of the night, maybe a little bit less. نصفه أو انقص منه قليلا وزد عليه, or maybe more than that. وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا, and recite the Quran very slowly, in a measured tone, so it gives an opportunity to reflect over it. So we see from these two surahs that were revealed at the very beginning of the mission of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was sent on two missions. There are two parallel, very much connected, but two parallel missions. One was to warn the people in the daytime. The other mission of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was to stand at night and connect himself to Allah Ta'ala. So these are two things that were going on simultaneously. Later on in the same surah, Surah Al-Muzammil, Allah Ta'ala tells him, إِنَّ لَكَ فِي النَّهَارِ سَبْحًا طَوِيلًا, that indeed in the day, literally it says that you have a long swim ahead of you. You have a lot of work to do. And that work, of course, is da'wah, calling people to Allah Ta'ala. But then Allah Ta'ala says, وَاذْكُرِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ وَتَبَتَّلْ إِلَيْهِ تَبْتِيلًا. So there's a solution for the excessive amount of work that you have in the morning is not just to make sure you get a restful sleep and make sure you get a lot of sleep at night. Rather, it's to cut yourself off from everything else at night and exclusively remember Allah Ta'ala. So these were two missions of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And over the course of the life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, there were, you could say, ups and downs. Especially in the Muslim era. There were times where things were seeming really tough. So now we can see that at the beginning of the mission of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he was given two tasks. One is to warn people in the day. The other one was to connect himself with Allah Ta'ala at night. And obviously we see the connection, that the stronger the bond is between any person and Allah Ta'ala, or in this case, the greatest of all people, the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Allah Ta'ala, then the more effective his da'wah would be during the day. Because connecting himself to Allah Ta'ala at night, that connection would bring in blessings that would power what he's doing in the day. So keeping that in mind, we see that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was sent on two missions. And then throughout the course of those 23 years, there were some challenging times. But we can see that with those challenging times, there are also very good times as well. And then perhaps the peak of the life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam comes at two different points that embody both of those missions. The first of those missions is that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was warning the people of the day. He was giving da'wah. Then finally, 23 years later, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam stands in front of an audience of over 100,000 people, who are all saying, لَقَدْ بَلَّغْتَ الرِّسَالَةَ وَأَدَّيْتَ الْأَمَانَةَ وَنَصَحْتَ الْأُمَّةَ. That you have done your job. Everything that was supposed to be conveyed, you have done so. And finally, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. That he sees people entering Islam in very large numbers. So seeing this, given khutbah in Arafah, seeing all the people in front of him, the seas of people in front of him, this perhaps is the peak of the life of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in regards to that one mission. Because he sees that that mission is finally complete. The mission that Allah Ta'ala sent him upon more than 2 decades before, in which he was told to go and warn people. قُمْ فَأَنذِرْ وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. Warn people. Allah Ta'ala sent him upon that mission, and finally over 2 decades later, we see the fruit of his efforts. But that was, you could say, one peak of the life of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that embodies one of his missions. But the other mission was that mission of connecting himself with Allah Ta'ala. That at night time he would spend many, many hours praying to Allah. Allah says, إِنَّ رَبَّكَ يَعْلَمُ أَنَّكَ تَقُومُ أَدْنَى مِنْ ثُلُثَيِ اللَّيْلِ. That indeed your Lord knows that you are praying for around 2/3 of the night. وَنِصْفَهُ وَثُلُثَهُ وَطَائِفَةٌ مِنَ الَّذِينَ مَعَهُ. For half of it, or 1/3 of it. In other words, you're praying for a lot of time at night. Allah Ta'ala says that وَتَقَلُّبَكَ فِي السَّاجِدِينَ إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. That Allah Ta'ala sees you when you're praying. Allah Ta'ala sees when you go into prostration. Allah is all hearing, all knowing. So Allah knows what's going on. Allah Ta'ala sees that. Now for any person who's striving to connect themselves with anyone, then one of the greatest things that they can experience is validation. One of the greatest things that they can experience is that if they're striving to connect themselves with somebody whom they love excessively, then if that individual whom they love shows them love,